Hey guys, welcome to the first week of May's digital online learning. So it looks like we'll be finishing out May, maybe the first week of June, with some online learning for advanced research and writing. So what I've got this week is our home page. It's not quite complete while I'm making this video because I have to add this video to it. So as we're on this week's tasks, here's one of the things I wanted to point out. First of all, a lot of students have been talking about having a little bit extra time to do their assignments. So I don't want you to feel like you have to work on things over the weekend, but if you wanted to work on the weekend, then you could. So what I'm going to do this week is extend the due date for our assignment to, if you'll take a look on the screen, to Sunday, May the 10th. So be aware of that. Now, that's also just to kind of keep in mind Mother's Day. So if you and your family have a little something planned on that day, please don't wait till the last minute to do this assignment. It's not that difficult. It's continuing on our extended essay practice. So you'll watch this week's introduction video, which you're doing right now, and optional, access the discussion post for this week's module. So when you go to our modules and scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that we have our this week's right here, our assignment. So this is your discussion. For any general questions, last week we had some good ones. And you can access that just to look at what questions are being asked. You don't have to ask any yourself, but if you would like to know if other folks are asking questions, there are, of course, fewer and fewer as we go through our digital platform. But anytime you have questions, you can post them there, or of course, you can send me an email. So back on our home page, you'll see where we have the extended essay practice stage 3. You're going to do 3 things here. You're going to continue some research, you're going to write a thesis, and you're going to draft your conclusion. And that's going to be due on Sunday, May the 10th at 11:59 p.m. That's when it's going to cut off. That gives you from Monday morning until Sunday night in order to work on this. This assignment should take you no more than 2 hours, and that's if you're working kind of slowly at it, to be honest. This one assignment is not as difficult, I think, as the first, but it is a little more involved than stage 2 was. So you can click on the assignment link there on our home page, and it takes you here to our assignment page in Canvas. So keep in mind, this is not just for IB students going on into DP. This is really just great research all around, research process. So in our first stage, do you remember what we did? So as a reminder, this was our stage 1. We did a subject, topic, and research, and you were supposed to find 5 sources and evaluate those sources, so that you were able to identify 5 things that you could use in order to really situate your knowledge with your subject. So stage 2, if you remember, was methodology and research question. So you were supposed to develop your methodology, your approach to research. And so that's pretty significant when you're looking at how you're going to research. Are you going to use case studies? Are you going to use, when you take a look at this, right here, are you going to use processes? How are you going to approach your research? And then you develop your research question for stage 2. Now it's time to work on stage 3. So here's our assignment this week for stage 3 and what I'd like for you to do. The first thing, I know this sounds a little weird, but I'd like for you to have all of your sources on one assignment page. So right here you're going to copy and paste the first 5 source boxes. So when we did the first assignment, this right here, your source boxes, go in there and copy all 5 of those and just paste those into this document right here. If you did not do well on your evaluation, if you didn't summarize your material, now's the time to fix that because this is really your second round of research. So you did your preliminary research, which is there just to inform you about your topic and your subject. Now it's time to really find some grounding sources where you can use that information to actually develop an argument and start finding some key pieces of evidence that you can use for your argument, which is what number 2 is. So number 1, all it is copy and paste, pretty simple. Number 2, you're going to do anywhere from 3 to 10 sources. 3 to 5 more sources. 3 to 5 more sources. So source 6 is a required source, so you have to have that one, because you've got the first 5 at the top, so this is source 6, and 7 is required, and 8 is required. Now, you can have 2 other optional resources, so that means you do not have to do a source 9 and source 10 unless it's just beneficial and helpful for you to develop your complex split thesis, which I know you're all excited about. So again, to reiterate steps 1 and 2. Number 1, copy and paste your first 5 sources from stage 1. Number 2 here, you're going to look for your additional sources. So that means you have to have for this source at least 3 other, no more than 5 other sources, and then you evaluate those. You're looking for key pieces of evidence right here for the sources, how they should help you to develop your argument, to identify at least 3 key pieces of evidence that you could prove your argument, which is why you have at least 3 to 5, and that will help you reach a conclusion that answers your research question. So that's what we're doing today. So once you have your sources picked out and evaluated in the charts, then you can go to your complex split thesis development, which I know we're ready to do. So your complex split thesis development. So you'll need to write a thesis statement for your extended essay, even though you have a topic, even though you have a research question. So here are some ideas to help you to develop your complex split thesis statement. Remember, our formula is although blank, where that's your opposition argument or your alternative, comma, my argument, which is going to be your argument for your essay, because of A, B, and C, where A, B, and C are your pieces of evidence to prove your argument. You can do a thesis generator. I'm not sure if many teachers really like this, but I thought it was really cool. So here's the Ashford University thesis generator. So what you do is you state your topic, and they just have an example here put in for you already. So you overwrite that. You state your main topic, which is your argument. And then you have your 3 supporting main ideas. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And then your opposition or your alternate viewpoint. And then you click Generate Your Thesis. And then it will give you the parts of your thesis that you've put in. You might have to rearrange some of these or reword that because, of course, it's just a generator. It might be a little robotic sounding, but it's pretty easy to do. It might help you with some writer's block if you're having trouble figuring out where to start with writing your thesis. So I hope that helps. So remember, your thesis is your argument for your extended essay. You're not writing the extended essay, but you have to have a question and then you have to have your argument. That's pretty significant when it comes to research. So you're going to type your thesis right at the end of number 3. You can color code that, make it bold, whatever you want to do to make sure it stands out. I'll be looking for those and reading those. But try to put that in a complex split format. And when you're finished with that, you need to have a conclusion. So in your conclusion, it's the answer to your research question, and it's going to back up your thesis. It's going to be kind of like a culminating activity that you're going to do based on your topic, based on your subject guide, what you've done with your research, with at least 8 to 10 sources, with your thesis, with all of this that you've done for the practice. This wraps it all up. So your conclusion should be at least 1 to 2 paragraphs. 1 paragraph is sufficient, but you might have to break it into 2. So what should your conclusion include? It needs to have a reference to your topic. So your topic needs to be in there somewhere. You don't have to say, in my conclusion, my topic is blank. You can start out with in conclusion or in summary and then state your conclusion outright. You also need to talk about how your research methodology helped you to reach this conclusion. And you could say something as simple as, based on this case study, based on this certain approach that I use, I was able to arrive at my conclusion because, and tell me how it helped you. And then the answer to your research question. Pay attention to your question starter. For example, if you started your research question with to what extent, then your conclusion should have to what extent. If you began your research question with what factors played a role, then make sure in your conclusion you include those factors. And your conclusion should include a clear reference to your thesis, that evidence that you used in your argument, as well as possibly the opposition. And so your conclusion, again, may take 1 to 2 paragraphs. And so just as an example about how this kind of works, Tessa Basinger gave me permission to let me use her example from what we did last year when this was critical thinking. But I just wanted to show you her thesis, her research question, her thesis, and her conclusion. So her question that she developed was, to what extent does modern horror represent the changes in the United States fears and values when compared to the classic slasher era? Her thesis statement was pretty lengthy, of course. Oftentimes a thesis statement can be, and hers was even 2 sentences. So here she says, in the time span between the classic slasher and modern horror, the genre has shifted from focusing on the unemotional serial killer to a more self-aware, even the villain being the protagonist. There's a bigger emphasis on psychology, breaking archetypes and formulas of slasher franchises. Due to the amount of repetition, smart technology and political climates brings a new focus on nuclear warfare and apocalyptic themes. So here is not necessarily a complex split thesis, of course, but a thesis statement that is acceptable when you're writing an essay. But for us, I want us to give it our best shot at writing that complex split thesis. But let's take a look at her conclusion. Nope, I lied. Let's take a look at her methodology right here. Why is she choosing the methods that she did? I wanted to go directly to the source material of the movie, then branch out to critic reviews and interviews. They show things actual viewers took away from the movie and what made them scary, and she could use actual scripts to see the intent of the people who made the movies, and so you could be even a little more detailed if you want to and really explain your reasoning behind using your resources that you chose to use very specifically. And then here was her conclusion. So this is about a paragraph of what she wrote, where she said the slasher era created the formula of the killer, the basic character archetypes, what is scary in a movie. With the slowing down of slasher popularity, self-aware movies that wanted to break this formula were born. We've seen this classic slasher movie so often it didn't seem as scary. Movies had to evolve simply because shocking the audience didn't hold its own as much as it used to. Modern horror did things to break the mold, like focusing on psychology, subtlety, and major plot twists, such as the protagonist being the murderer, but they didn't even know it. We see the influence of our culture in shows and TV like American Horror Story, Apocalypse, and AHS Cult. People are putting these apocalyptic themes in their work because they want to play on real fears people had. So there's a clear reference here to her topic, to her research question, to her thesis, to her evidence, which is her research and her methodology. So your conclusion needs to basically be your whole answer. So I hope that helps with our assignment that we're doing, but of course, please do email me with any questions that you have. Let's go back to our homepage one more time. So really quick, just to end out this video, there's going to be a little activity here that I haven't posted yet. I'm just not ready to make that public yet, but it will be on Monday, because Monday is, of course, May the 4th. So May the 4th be with you this week. There's going to be a little fun activity for you to do. You don't have to share it, but if you do, you can share what you do in our discussion posts. It's not a graded activity. It's just there to be fun. And really what you're doing is you're making a little buddy to put on the corner of your computer. So it could be related to Star Wars or whatever you want. So hopefully that'll be fun and cute. And remember, our course contact information is also here. You can send me emails during the day from 8 to 2 if you have questions. I'll be happy to answer those. You can also put them in our discussion posts. So I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say this week and how you're doing on Stage 3. Have a good week.